Good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. I recently took Sheila Golson's place as Deputy Director for Region 4, covering the Bronx, Staten Island, and Brooklyn. So we're still down one Deputy Director for our region, and hopefully that will be filled within the next couple of months, so we'll have a full complement of administration to assist in the borough's work. I have a very small, I've been working for the state for many, many years. I have over 40 years of service. So I have a lot of experience to bring to the table, and I'm very excited about this position and the ability to help everyone here. I have great staff. I'm very, very lucky and fortunate to be able to work with Staten Island. I do have just a little bit of information from our director. Mary Grace was unable to come today. And just to say that the CCO forums are going to, the MCO forums, the managed care forums, will be happening. And we did have 2 of them already, and we're going to now incorporate them within meetings that are already existing, such as this meeting. So rather than to ask families and agencies to come to yet another meeting to learn about the MCOs and how we're moving into managed care, we will be contacting each of the borough's councils to be able to have the meetings as part of an existing meeting, making it more convenient for everybody to participate. So you will be hearing about that shortly. And the other thing, which you may already know too, is that we do have a new commissioner. Ted Kastner has been appointed, and he should be on board within the next couple of weeks. The exciting thing that Ted brings to us is that he has a really strong background with working with the developmentally disabled, and he also has a very strong background with working with managed care. The other exciting thing, I believe, is that Dr. Kastner his presence will be here in New York City. He will have an office at Beaver Street in Manhattan, and he will have one also in Albany, but his main office will be here in New York City, which is very different than any other commissioner that we've had before. So I'm excited about that as well. So you will be hearing Dr. Kastner's name a little bit more as time moves on, and that's really all I have to report today.
Thank you, Liz. You're welcome. I'd like to ask Chris Trieber from IAC to come up to give a...
Hi, good morning. So I'm with Interagency Council. I'm the Associate Executive Director for Children's Services, so normally I talk about kids. But I do want to mention that we had an analysis that was done of the governor's budget thus far from the Coalition of Provider Associations. IAC is part of that. So I'll just give you some just brief rundown. We're still in the process of sort of really fully analyzing it, but we're disappointed that basically the governor is recommending a deferral of the Human Services COLA. We've been advocating for a COLA for a while, which is a cost of living increase for the agencies that provide all these services, and there's another deferral on that. We also were disappointed that there was no money for Be Fair to Direct Care, which is the continuing money to support direct support professionals. We obviously will be strongly advocating for both of those things when we do our lobbying. There is money in the budget. The governor included $30 million for development, which basically means that fully annualized it's $120 million with state and federal matching, and that is available for OPW program priorities, including certified housing support, independent living, more day programs, and employment options. So we're happy that that money was in there. There's another $15 million in capital funds for independent living, for housing, managed care readiness. In the governor's budget proposal, there's $5 million to improve provider readiness for managed care, and there's funding that was given to the New York Alliance for Inclusion and Innovation to basically help develop best practices. So that's going to be a lot of training for providers to get them ready for managed care. And then there is money included in there again for the minimum wage increases, so we're happy that that's in there. In regard to special education, There's very little at all in the governor's budget regarding mention of preschool special education or school-age services at all. There's no direct funding for recruitment and retention of teachers, which is a huge issue for our schools. We are fairly, pretty significantly disappointed in basically the entire education piece because there's very little money at all for our schools. Just to give you a perspective, even within the Board of Regents, which recommends to the governor's office what they believe money is necessary for all education for all kids, the governor's budget is about $1 billion short of what the regions say they need to be able to make sure that all children have the services they're entitled to. So the Board of Regents is not happy with the governor's proposal regarding education. Even though it calls for $1 billion increase, they were calling for $2.1 billion. So it's nothing real what the region said that they specifically need. So in terms of early intervention, the one area that we are happy to see is the governor is recommending a 5% increase in early intervention for related service provider rates. So that means occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. The problem with that is it doesn't touch on anything else. So part of the special instruction that's done by special education teachers, none of that is recommended for an increase at all. So we're happy with certain pieces of it. We're very disappointed in other areas that were not included. And you can believe that we will strongly be advocating during our lobbying campaign, obviously during the legislative breakfast and other things, to advocate to the legislature now to ensure that some of the funding that we want to cover the COLA or certainly the Be Fair money ends up in the final budget. So we'll see what happens with that. The other two or three things I just want to mention to you. There is now in New York City, a New York City Department of Health passed a law about 5 years ago. It was basically fought in court for a number of years, and then in July, the highest court in New York State approved the New York City law, which says that all children from the age of 6 months to 59 months must be vaccinated against the flu if they attend daycare program, Head Start, preschool special ed, UPK, any kind of center-based program. About a month ago, we were very, very concerned through a survey that I did with our membership that thousands and thousands of children were unvaccinated. We made a really significant campaign. The Department of Education also took on the initiative after we alerted them that thousands of kids would be suspended. And now we only have, out of our about 6,000 or 7,000 children, maybe 200 or so kids not in school, which is a vast increase because about a month ago we had over 3,000 kids that would have been suspended. So we're still trying to spread the word. Families who haven't had their kids vaccinated, they're excluded from school, they can't be in school. We're still encouraging them to get vaccinated, but it's a small number now. So we're happy about that. The other thing I want to mention, I don't know how many of you know about the Early Childhood Direction Centers. So the Early Child Direction Centers are probably the most important lifeline for parents of young children to get access to services. When they're newly diagnosed, usually it's a doctor or pediatrician who tells the parent, call the Early Child Direction Center. In Staten Island, it's run by Laura Kennedy and Kathy Nowak. They've been doing this for many, many years. They have an amazing program. They were informed a few weeks ago by the State Education Department that they were terminating their contract as the end of June, at June 30th, 2019. And so the state is proposing to create these different models of service. They're calling them Family and Community Engagement Centers, FACE centers for early childhood, and they're eliminating the parent centers, which provided services to school-age families, and creating what they're calling FACE school-age centers. In theory, the idea is that they're going to put more direct regional support based on areas of what they need. Rather than just sort of a general model, each individual region of the state is going to have their own model. The idea is that there would be one FACE center in each borough. Currently, right now, there's an Early Child Direction Center in every single borough, and most of the Early Child Direction Centers have at least 2 or 3 full-time staff. That's how they work. The new proposal is for one person to be in each of these centers. We don't believe that it's going to be able to do anything near what the Early Child Direction Centers have done. We're also concerned about the fact that the main focus is not to support families of young children. We had a meeting here last week. Laura Kennedy arranged it with the Assistant Commissioner for Special Ed for the state of New York, and we talked to him about a lot of these concerns. What we were kind of told is that Well, the early child direction centers, yeah, they were important, so we're going to have the FACE centers do everything the early child direction centers did, and they're going to do all the new stuff. Except it's going to be one person instead of 3. And we were kind of looking at him like, how is that even humanly possible? So there has been a campaign. A lot of emails have gone out asking families, especially families who have benefited from the ECDCs, to email members of the Board of Regents to let them know that these are really important services. I've personally spoken to members of the Board of Regents as well as speaking to the Assistant Commissioner. My recommendation is basically saying that the contract that the ECDCs have is a 5-year contract. The state wants to terminate it 1 year early. So our recommendation is leave that contract in place. Let the contract finish the 5 years. Leave something stable in place, because the state is literally changing every single support model within the next 6 months around the state. For families of young children, on July 1st, who are they going to call? The state has not been able to answer that question for us. That's not good enough. So we have been doing a lot of advocacy. I know that from members of the regents that they've got inundated with letters, many letters, more than 400 or 500 letters and emails. They have been apparently discussing what they're going to do about it. So we're trying to be hopeful that they will resolve this and maybe allow the centers to remain for 1 more year. During that time, be able to have meetings and figure out really the direction of where the state wants to go. The other thing that they really didn't take into account is that the ECDC is also a major component for early intervention services. They are part of the state's comprehensive child care fine regulation in law. And so that's another piece that they didn't take into account. So eliminating this is going to really jeopardize families and young children access. So we're going to see what we can do. If, in fact, the Board of Regents and Staten doesn't change this, we will then, obviously, this will probably be part of our lobbying effort going forward with the legislature to educate them as much as we can about the importance of these services. But I think it's just important to spread the word that this is the proposal, this is what's happening, and that if you know families of young children who have benefited, it's very important for them to basically let people know how important these programs were, what they've done. I see Kathy's here, and the value of what they've done all these years. It's just not acceptable that there was no stakeholder input, there's no opportunity for public comment, and basically the state wants to eliminate something that has been in existence for more than 40 years and has done remarkable work for so many families. It's really disheartening that they just kind of take this action without really talking to anybody about it. And the last thing I'll just mention to you is that we as IAC are very concerned in regard to the current state of preschool special ed in New York City. We know that many families who had children who just aged out of EI, meaning they were in early intervention, they're 3 years old, and now they're leaving early intervention at the end of December looking for a seat in a preschool program. Most of those kids right now are sitting at home. There's no preschool seats in the city. Just to give you some idea, around the state in the last 3.5 years, 61 preschool special ed programs have closed, 31 in New York City. The state is completely underfunding these programs, and now what's happening is we have a lot of uncertified teachers teaching these classrooms. So we're trying to do everything we can. I'm going to be speaking at the legislative breakfast here. You'll hear much more about this, but basically our main focus is going to be ensuring that all children who have a disability, especially children in early childhood programs, they have a right to have a certified teacher in that classroom. And when New York City Department of Ed can pay those teachers $30,000 more than we can, on average, we're losing more and more teachers every day. And unless the state does something to turn that around, there's a real jeopardy. And my understanding is the regional need that basically identifies how many children in the entire New York City need preschool special ed seats right now is going to be the same as it was before. It's going to be at least 700 or 800 seats. That probably means that on Staten Island alone, there's probably more than 100, 120 kids that currently need preschool special ed seats. So it's really important that the advocacy really start to ramp up regarding preschool special ed, the importance of services to early childhood kids.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions for Chris? Yes, Iris.
If I may just piggyback on what Chris was saying, it's not really a question.
No, sure.
I'm with the Special Education Parent Center for Staten Island, and while our contract had run its 5 years and was due to expire June 30th, and we knew that, they have done the exactly to us what they've done to you. There is no longer really being of assistance to parents, working them on the phones, trying to avoid them going to whether it's mediation, impartial hearings, and making sure that their needs and legal rights are being met. And again, one person, exactly the same proposal went out to all the centers. So please, when you're doing your advocacy, keep us in mind as well, because it is an impossible task, and the children and therefore the parents are going to be the losers. There are no winners in here except possibly for the education system from the professional points of view.
And the most important thing the parent centers and the SIDDCs do for parents is they give independent information so parents can make informed decisions. If these contracts were turned over to, say, the Department of Education, how many parents of young children would be calling the Department of Education to get information when they themselves are providing the services? The most important piece is this independence and the trust. And on Staten Island, Laura and Kathy, and certainly, I forget your name, Iris, have developed trust with people. You can't build that overnight. It takes years to do that. And to just eliminate it without really talking to people and thinking it through is really very concerning from an advocacy perspective. So, absolutely.
So before we break out and people can explore and meet the co-chairs of the various committees, I just wanted to know if there's any old business, any new business, any announcements. I know Laura is here from Assemblymember Wiley's office. Did you want to say anything or? No? Okay, well thank you for coming and participating. Hope to see you again. Lorraine.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm Lorraine DeSantis from the Health and Clinical Services Committee. We sent out a few weeks ago a questionnaire on SurveyMonkey. It came from Angela. It is directed to family members and caregivers of individuals with developmental disabilities. And the questions are designed to help us understand if you have any recommendations with regards to clinical services on Staten Island. The clinical services could be dental, they could be regular doctor specialists, wherever you take your loved one for his health services. We've only gotten 7 responses so far. So I've asked Angela to resend. It's only going to family members and caregivers right now. Please, it only takes 5 minutes. We only want good experiences. We don't want to hear that you had a terrible experience with somebody. But if you had a great experience, please share that with us, because at the end of this, we want a directory to be accessed by you, so that if you're looking for those services, you'll have recommendations from parents like yourselves. Okay?
Thank you.
There is literature outside from the Special Education Program Center for Staten Island, also known as Parent to Parent. And one thing I do want to mention is we are doing a 2-part series last Thursday in January, first Thursday in February. It's a continuation. We need you to go to both. It's called Mental Health First Aid. So many of our children are diagnosed with both developmental issues and emotional and mental health issues. It's being conducted by Thrive of New York, and that is one of their specialties. Free of charge, but you have to register, so please help yourself to the brochures and join us.
Anybody else have an announcement or an update or anything? Well, I forgot to say Happy New Year, so Happy New Year.